The legendary Sinclair ZX Spectrum. After its official release in 1982, it led to a boom in companies producing software and hardware, many of which are still hugely popular today. As many of you know from my previous videos, many of our top game developers worldwide today started out on this platform, such as many of the original Rare and Rockstar teams, for example. In fact, some actually credit Sir Clive Sinclair, the creator of the machine, responsible for the boom of the entire UK IT industry. Can you imagine having such an accolade? It was so impressive, even the Queen was impressed enough to give him a knighthood over it. The royal family love a bit of Jet Set Willy. The Spectrum actually remained the #1 best-selling computer in the UK during the early 80s, having only been knocked off the top spot for a short amount of time by the likes of the BBC Acorn and the Commodore 64. Both excellent machines in their own rights. But that's enough cooing over how wonderful the Spectrum was. Let's rewind back to the topic of this video. The wonderful Sinclair ZX81. What an influential and important device. Many look back at this home computer with huge nostalgia, despite the fact that this machine was only available to buy between 1981 and 1983. This was the soundless black and white predecessor to the enormously popular Speccy, and despite having sold around 1 million units worldwide, you don't hear many people within the YouTube echo chamber harping on about this monumental device as much as perhaps you hear about some others. Even tripe like the Nintendo 64 disk drive seems to get more attention than this. Yuck. Anyway, let's have a brief look at some of the salient points of this machine. This revolutionary device cost around 1/10 of the price of the Apple II. What this meant was basically Sinclair were taking home computing away from the social elites and making it affordable for the common man too. All of a sudden, a generation of working class people could actually afford to have their own computer without having to save up nearly a year's worth of wages in the process. At the time, the ZX81 was priced at £69.95, so computers were finally available to more people than just high-end corporate Wolf of Wall Street wannabe twats. In fact, if you were really poor and needed to save £20, which in the early 80s was much more expensive, you could just buy the parts and solder the whole lot together yourself for the much cheaper price of £49.95. To put this into perspective as to why this machine was so successful, the ZX80, the ZX81's precursor, actually cost £99.95 on release. So this was a newer model of computer and was even cheaper to purchase. No wonder it was so popular. Everyone loves a bargain. Well, unless of course you're one of those strange sealed Nintendo game fetishists. Another way in which the machine was made to be much more affordable was that it used a proprietary form of BASIC, which meant that there was no expensive licensing fee due back to Microsoft, like what you had with many expensive Yankee computers at the time. The greedy bastards. Anyway, so there you have it. Even back in the early 1980s, Apple and Microsoft were still pure evil corporate monsters who needed to be vanquished by the small man. There's nothing like the regular man taking on a corporate monster and actually winning. Kind of like, say, Larry Bundy Jr. forcing that evil Watch Mojo to take down that video after they royally ripped him off. But then again, Sinclair got crushed in the end, so maybe one day, well, Watch Mojo will manage to freeze us all in carbonite anyway. Moving on, for all of the technophiles watching this, here is some of the specs for this machine. The processor was a Zilog Z80, the CPU speed was 3.5 MHz, the RAM was 1K, the ROM was 8K and the resolution was 64 x 48. Although third-party programmers did manage to trick the system into being able to process a high resolution display of 256 × 192, something or another, despite the fact that officially Sir Clive actually said that this was impossible. He had created the product so great, even he didn't know how great it was. Now that we have that pile of horrible boring facts out of the way, I want to give you a little bit of perspective. During the time period, it had become clear to not only Sir Clive, but also to his peers like Nolan Bushnell of Atari, for example, that to become more widely appealing, they needed to strip back computing to the bare essentials to be able to reach the wider audience. This meant that not only were the machines much cheaper than its competitors, the machines were literally really lightweight too, hence the name microcomputers. This method of design meant that there was absolutely nothing which was not absolutely essential inside of the machines. This also meant that third-party developers had more to work with in a way, as they were able to release additional add-ons such as memory packs and sound/graphic modules. So therefore, despite the limited hardware and software the machine offered, it was also endlessly customizable. No wonder then that it essentially raised and inspired an entire generation of bedroom developers who would go on to be millionaires in their own rights. There were even books released which taught those bedroom developers how to code in BASIC, some of which had actually been written by some of the main programmers for the machine. These included titles such as ZX81 Basic Programming, The Explorer's Guide to the ZX81, and 30-Hour Basic. Right, so we have now discussed enough about the machine. Let's have a brief look at some of the games which made this machine so memorable, since after all, this is a gaming channel, so this is probably what you are here for. As we approach this side of things, I think it is important to mention just how primitive these titles are. ZX81 games offer no colour, no built-in sound, but showcased what such a budget early computer had to offer. So let's delve into some of the library of the ZX81. Yeah! Released in 1982 and produced by Arctic, Galaxian was one of those games which was a black and white 8-bit version of the arcade classic. As is usual with this kind of game, you fly the craft at the bottom of the machine and do your best to imagine the blocks flying above you is a rival alien fleet, which you're desperately trying to destroy as fast as possible. In amongst all of this, you're dodging attacking ships which are firing in your direction and flying at you kamikaze style. Overall, despite the limited hardware, this was a decent version of the game. 3D Monster Maze, released in 1981, was one of the original horror games, if you can call it that, and this was years before Sweet Home was released on the Famicom. The game leaves you wandering around a maze, with a menacing message on the bottom of the screen advising you that Rex is looking for you. Ooh. When you're inevitably caught, you're literally eaten by the monster. Despite the basic graphics of the game, it's actually very atmospheric, and I can imagine it probably scared a lot of children at the time. Good. Another popular game was Night Gunner. If you had good enough imagination, then basically you became the captain of a fighter plane, flying through the sky, aiming at enemy planes and shooting them down before they shot you first. The game is set in first person, which is why it requires a little more imagination, but it's overall a good game. Mazogs, released in 1982, is a maze adventure game with a twist. Your character is a warrior who traverses a maze and kills the monsters he comes into contact with. However, unlike other games, you lose your sword every time you fight. This means you must remember where the sword were that you passed on your way and then make your way back to them safely before you bump into another monster. This game, unlike a lot of the other offerings on this machine, features huge sprites, so your character and enemies are a lot more defined than usual. Overall, a great little game. Developed by Colormatic and released in 1982, the Gauntlet is a basic shoot 'em up where you drop bombs and shoot your way through each stage. It's basically a clone of Konami's Scramble. This game is a little more of a challenge on the basis that your ship is absolutely huge and you don't necessarily get a lot of room to manoeuvre. However, once you get the hang of it, it's a really good little game. Fortress of Zorlak, made by Paul Carson and released in 1982, is another interesting shooter. You have the presumably evil Lord Zulak hiding inside one of his rotating castles. There are 4 guns firing at you which can't be destroyed, so in amongst dodging their fire, you're trying to destroy 3 layers of rotating walls to get to Zorlak within. At the same time as all of this, the fortress is slowly ebbing closer and closer to you. There are 3 speed choices: slow, fast and suicidal, though I wouldn't bother with slow as it's painfully boring. Even Sega had attempted to stick their fingers inside of the ZX81 pie, with their offering being Frogger, released in 1981. This plays very much like other, well, Frogger games. You're trying to cross a river or road where you as a frog can drown or get flattened by a bloody car. There is a timer at the bottom of the screen which prevents you from being slow, and once you've made it across both the road and the river, you're only allowed to finish in each position available at the top of the screen once. Clever, eh? It stops you from being able to formulate a pattern. There are even games released as recent as 2013 on the platform. Would you believe that? The ZX81 lives! Cubert is a high-resolution game released by Dr. Beep. The aim of the game is to jump on each platform on the level to change them, while simultaneously avoiding enemies who are trying to capture you. This game is a loving tribute to the arcade game also known as Cubert. Ports, eh? 3D Grand Prix, released in 1983 by DK-Tronics, is a fairly advanced racing game for the time period. This is a little more difficult on the basis that you have to manually change gears, and it's very hard not to crash or blow up your engine. This game actually advises you it will automatically adjust to your difficulty level. If you're one of those Yanks who's never driven a car with a manual gearbox before in your life, I'd give this one a miss altogether. But then again, you'd probably have trouble procuring a ZX81 anyway. Nightmare Park, released in 1982 by PSS, is a series of mini-games based in a terrifying park where danger and death await you around every corner. You literally have to follow the instructions on the screen, and some aspects are literally luck based, i.e. you can just lose the whole game in one go if you're unlucky and hit by arrows which you're literally got no ability whatsoever to avoid. Reminds me of a Jekyll and Hyde game that THGM got so angry over. Overall, this game is rubbish, so you'll never get past it. It's terrible! That was the ZX81, and some of the games the platform has to offer. As you can see, in terms of gaming, it is a primitive early system that offers the bare basics when it comes to aesthetics and gameplay. However, the system should be respected for its early contributions in making home computing affordable to everyone. Are the games on the system worth playing today? Well, if you have a decent imagination and like your global gaming history, then why not? However, be warned, in 2018, this is a platform that is only suitable really for true gaming connoisseurs who have an acquired taste for such shenanigans. Yeah. Thank you for watching today's video. Have you ever played on a ZX81? Why not share some of your memories of the platform within the comment section? If not, maybe this is the first time you've heard of the platform. I would be interested to know your initial thoughts on this microcomputing gem. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe for regular in-depth content on this very channel. If the comment section is not enough for you, you can also join me for a chat on Twitch every Saturday night at 9 PM GMT till 3 AM Sunday. You can also bear witness to some of my divine gaming skills, using actual hardware too. If you want even more Top Hat, I also have a talk show channel too, known as Top Hat Chat, which maybe you should subscribe to on YouTube. Finally, if my voice sounds slightly odd today, I would like to apologise for my flu symptoms. However, I'm hardcore at making content anyway. So, shout outs to Carl Johnson, Shizuka Kabayashi, Minty Oblivion, Victor Rain, Sin Spaces, Kevin Fahili, David Mountford, Andrew Basansky, Atanas Garcia, Edward O'Reilly, Pizza Dawn, Retail Archaeology, Diego Pereira dos Santos Silva from Porto, Portugal, and all of my other patrons. Combined, you all inspire me to even work when I am feeling under the weather. Yeah, as you should all work too, when you're ill, I suppose. Let's all make money together. Cheerio!